brief, but what kind of impact did the city of Omaha make on you as a player and as a professional?
Well, I think from a player's perspective, I think as a young man, I was probably 22, almost 23 at the time. So your biggest focus is that the fact that you're going to AAA. And being from Kansas City, you hear about Omaha, but you've never been to Omaha. And I remember those days watching Omaha, the Wild Kingdom, and that kind of deal. So that kind of went through my mind and all that. But I think once you get here, get acclimated to the city, I think we lived out west, off 72nd Street or something like that. So I think that's what playing in front of bigger crowds. And I just think that was what I took out of it, just being one step closer to the big leagues and just being able to learn the game in this city itself. But the weather was always a little iffy in April.
Still is.
But I mean, I think AAA baseball is like you've matured a little bit in the game, and you just feel like you come here, you learn. The fans are great, the people are great. I love the setting of what Rosenblatt Stadium was, and the kids had an opportunity to go to the zoo, and I mean it was just so convenient. So that's kind of what I remember.
Hey, I want to ask you too about Bob Gibson. Obviously, different leagues, but what was your recollection of growing up and seeing him dominate the way he is? And then once you got to the big leagues, thank goodness, his time was just about winding down when you started up, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I had an opportunity actually to play against him in spring training.
Okay.
And I think that at that point, all I heard was rumors and stories, and you didn't really know just how competitive this guy was and what his rules of the game were in terms of how do you get in the box, whether you dig a hole or not. And we had this one guy that got in there and started digging a hole, and Bob was standing there with his hands on his hips, and our guys were telling our guy, hey, cover that hole up, because he had his own, he played by his own set of rules, and I think he was one of those guys on the mound. He dominated on the mound, and I still recall the game against Detroit where he struck out 16. I watched that game, just electric slider, very good competitor, and for a while he came up to play in this golf tournament when he was doing that. But I don't think you'll find when they say baseball player, that's Bob Gibson all the way. I don't think you're going to find anyone more competitive, anyone that respects the game anymore. And I think that he'd probably look at some of the guys and the antics on the field today and probably says, boy, they better be glad I'm not playing.
Exactly right. That's all from me. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So did you get a hit off?
I don't know. I can't remember.
I'm Steve Boomer.
Steve, my pleasure.
Obviously, you played the group of guys you came up with, a young group of guys that obviously formed the nucleus of the Royals' success in the 80s. I guess when you look back on it, how proud are you of that?
Extremely proud. I think you get a lot of guys who say, do you wish you were playing in this era where the money's big and things like that. And most of the guys that played in my era always pretty much say the same thing. You can't replace the winning. You can't replace the camaraderie. I was able to play against guys out of the 60s, coming into the 70s, and I played against just numerous Hall of Famers. I got to play against Roberto Clemente and Hank Aaron and Frank Robinson and all those guys, and guys that you actually read about growing up, Willie Mays, and I think that you can't stuff you can't put a monetary value to. I mean, it's then when you get to your team and all of a sudden you start winning, and every year you're in the hunt in September, you're in the playoffs, and you just can't trade that for dollars. And being able to be in 2 World Series, being able to win 1 World Series, I don't think you can equate that to dollars. So I think a lot of guys who are playing today, they're a lot richer than we were.
Right.
Because back then we still had to work in the winter. But I think that they will never have as much fun as we had. Because I think that was an era where the game was totally professional. You didn't have all the antics. Players respected the game. Players gave each player their due. And I think that to be able to be with so many great guys in our ball club, guys who taught you how to play the game, guys who professionalized you about the game, I think those are the things that made the game fun for me. They kept it really simple and didn't have any gray area. And they say, you do the job, you don't do the job. Let's move on. So it was great.
I mean, could you sense that was a special group that you were coming up with? The Georges and the Willie.
But really, they were already good when we got there. I mean, it was like it was an expansion team in '69, and then when I got there in '73, they still had never finished last. They were very competitive, and the Royals made some really good trades right after the expansion draft. They made a trade to get John Mayberry, Amos Otis, Cookie Rojas, Freddie Patek. and some pitchers to go along with that. And then they made the trade in '73 to get Hal McRae, and then George and I got a little bit of the big leagues in '73,
right.
But in '74 we were there. Then you had Dennis Leonard, and so it started to fill in at that point. And Steve Busby was on top of his game and split off from those guys. And when '76 came around, it was really kind of neat because we had a chance to add guys like Tommy Davis and Veda Pinson and Harmon Killebrews last year. And when we won our first division in '76, I mean, that was awesome. I mean, but it was just like, it seemed like every time there was somebody ready to step out, we had somebody ready to step in. And when Cookie retired, and I was ready to play.
Right.
Then after '77, the first year for agency, then you had Willie Wilson coming on, and Washington, and it just got better and better as we went along. And then about '80, you had Willie Aikens, and I mean, it was just one of those stair-step things where things just kept getting better every year. And then in '84, then you had those young pitchers come in, like Saberhagen and Gubicza and Danny Jackson, and it just got sweeter and sweeter. So it was like we just always seemed to be making the right moves. And in '85, when we had to make a move, we got Dane Orridge and we got Lonnie Smith from the Cardinals, and the team just kept on rolling. But after '86, we hit that area there where the guys who came out of AAA after that year never took off. Right. And then we had that years where we just didn't do much.
Frank Lee Warren with Box Media.
My pleasure. Nice to meet you.
There's a whole generation of fans, a young generation, that has no recollection of what you're talking about.
I know, you're right. So they have to go Google it up, But they will never, if they go back to 1970 and see the players who played in Major League Baseball at that time, and go back and see how many of those guys became Hall of Famers. I mean, when I came in '73, the Orioles had 4 20-game winners, and you don't see that in baseball anymore. And Dennis Leonard had back-to-back seasons with 21 or more complete games. You don't see that much anymore. So the game today seems like it's more about protecting guys versus rather than letting guys go out there and just play the game. And I think that those guys that you talk to that pitched back in those days, they all say you need to throw more and not less. And when you look at the body types of the guys in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, the body types are different than what they are now. These guys are bigger, stronger, faster, and we didn't have weights in our clubhouse till 1983. So I mean, it's just different, But I think the game, from a marketing standpoint, has grown. I think players are more into marketing themselves through social media, things like that, where when we played, people looked at us more like stars because there wasn't enough information on us. We didn't have but 62 home games 62 games on the road, no home and no one home game. So if you weren't at the game, you had to listen on radio. And so we didn't have, ESPN was just coming in, and we still had VCRs, we didn't have the things that they have today. I mean, they have so many avenues to get better as players, stay healthy as players, promote themselves as players. It's just such a different environment in the game. But I wouldn't want to play today's environment. I like the old way where people, when they saw you, I think that's why we're still so popular in KC, because, well, first of all, we won, but at the same time, there was so much people just didn't know about you. They had to listen on radio. They had to come to the ballpark. And now every game's on TV, and they can sit at home, and players move all the time, so they don't. And I think we played an average of probably 10 years together as teammates. And so fans got to know us really well, and we entrenched ourselves in the community, and we're still that way now.
So preserving these stories, I mean, that kind of connects with this project here. Is that one of the good reasons for being involved in it?
Well, Jack McKeon he was my first manager in the major leagues, and I remember being in AAA here, and I was an academy guy, and the academy wasn't that popular with a lot of the people in the Royal system at that time. So when Jack called down, Freddie pulled a muscle in June, so I had played for Jack in spring training, and so Jack wanted me to come to the big leagues, but they didn't want me to come. So Jack said either him or nobody. So probably if he hadn't insisted on me coming up, I might not have, it may have been a little bit longer for me to get here. So I think those stories are great, and Jack was a great manager for us, great young players manager. It was a lot of fun.
I was going to say, what was it like to play for him?
Oh, he was great. I mean, he let you play. And I had, like I said, I played a little bit for him in spring training. So he liked the aggressive game. He liked guys who liked speed and defense. And he played the little game a little bit. But the biggest thing is that he just let you play. And I think that's what I like more about the managers I play for, is they didn't try to micromanage. They just said, go play. As long as you don't make bad decisions, you never hear from me. So they give you a chance to show them that you know how to play the game, which was fun.
Appreciate it very much.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure, guys.
Thanks.
Okay.